Hello there, chess video fans, and today I thought I'd try something different. I think one of the reasons that more videos aren't viewed is because they're just too long. People have busy lives and we need to get on with what they need to do, and I know it's true for me. When I see a 20-minute video posted, I think twice about watching it. So I thought I'd do something. I would present a miniature. This is a famous game, Liu Wenzhe against Wenzhe-Donner from the 1978 Buenos Aires Chess Olympiad. And probably many people are familiar with this game, but there's probably a few out there who haven't seen it, and this is for them. There's a famous story attached to this game. Donner, at that time, Chinese chess was in its infancy, and I think there had been only one defeat of a grandmaster. Nicholas Krogius was the first person to lose to a Chinese grandmaster, but in general, it hadn't happened to a Western grandmaster. So, in the first round of the Olympiad, one of Donner's compatriots, a member of the Icelandic team, had lost to a Chinese player, and Donner made the unfortunate remark, "How does a Western grandmaster lose to a Chinese player, lose to a Chinaman?" I think he said. Well, anyway, this game was his comeuppance, and it's as I said, it's a miniature. It won't take very long. There's not a lot of deep variations in it, so let's get right to it. Let's go to the start position here. Okay, so this is a Pierce defense. And now Bishop E2 is a standard move, and this by itself is well known. But after Bishop G7, Liu Wenzhe essayed the surprising G4, at least surprising for the time. This is now known as the Chinese variation in some books as a result of this game. And Liu Wenzhe was actually he was the first player of any prominence to play this, and he had studied this and used it in China with some success. So he felt that it was worth trying against a top-level European grandmaster. And after he played this move, Donner spent half an hour thinking about his reply, and he played H6. Now, this move has subsequently been subjected to a lot of criticism as being the beginning of Donner's problems, and you'll see why that is in the course of the game. It's interesting to note that Liu Wenzhe himself thought that it was a perfectly reasonable move. To this day, he believes that, and that the criticism of the move was unfair. In fact, he said the move stopped him in his tracks. He had intended, say after Black had castled, to play H4, but then he thought, well, after Donner's H6, how is he possibly going to continue? So he felt he'd been that Donner had anticipated his plan of attack, and he half-heartedly moved his pawn to H3. He didn't want his queen and knight to be tied to the defense of the G pawn. So this is actually a very practical move. It's interesting because some of the other annotations I've read call it a cunning move, but actually, he was in Liu Wenzhe's words. It was just the second best move that he wanted to play. He wanted to play H4, but realized that because of the H6 move, that it wasn't going to be as effective as he thought. So anyway, Donner played C5. Now, there's a couple of Martin points out that this position is not quite as insane as it looks. This is basically kind of an upper-level coffee house game. And after this game, all sorts of people tried this plan of attack, but effective means were found to counter it. And it's actually fallen out of disuse. The latest game in the Chessbase mega database is from 2004. Interestingly, I looked at all the available games, and White wins the majority of these games. Martin has an article on the system, which I'll put a link to it in the comments so you can see. And he seems to think it's still a viable system. I'll give you a couple of quick lines. Instead of the c5 that Donner plays here, Martin gives c6. Actually, this is from Gary Lane's analysis. Bishop e3, queen a5, bishop d3, slightly surprising moving the bishop twice. Knight b d7, knight g e2, c5, castles, a6, f4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, e5, knight b3, queen d8, f5. This was a fairly recent game, at least from the last 10 years. It's unclear, and the game apparently was messy, but to my way of thinking, White looks okay here. He does have a lot of space around his king, but he also has an aggressive stance vis-a-vis Black's king side too. Anyway, so another possibility from this position is e5, d5, knight c6, knight to f3, c takes d5, e takes d5, h5, g5, knight to h7, bishop e3, knight to d7, knight to e4, queen c7, knight f to d2, with the idea of c4, and White was better in this game. So, going back to the game now, after h3, Donner played c5, d5 was played, and now this was undoubtedly the mistake of the game. And he played castles here, and this is where things started to go badly awry for Donner. According to Liu Wenzhe, he felt that Donner was underestimating him psychologically. He felt that after Liu Wenzhe had played h3, then he had no intention of continuing with a caveman attack, that h6 had essentially beaten back his ideas of an insane wing attack. But Liu Wenzhe said he was surprised to see Donner castle, because he felt, well, now I can go back with the h-pawn idea that he originally wanted to start with. So as he says something like, theory doesn't mean much when there are mating opportunities on the board. So already he was seeing that he might have a winning attack here. So what Donner should have played in this position was knight a6 with the idea of knight c7 and rook b8, and going for the standard kind of queenside counterplay that is typical of the Perk defense. So anyway, Liu Wenzhe played h4, exclamation point, and now Donner was starting to feel the heat. e6, g5 was played. I mean, these are the kind of moves that occur on blitz games on the internet every day. So it's not a very hard game to understand. H takes g5, H takes g5, and now Donner should have played knight to h7. It's better than what he did. We'll look at knight to h7. Knight to h7, and a couple of possibilities here. Queen to d2, rook to e8, knight to f3, e takes d5. And as Martin says, I do not see the mate in this line. And the other possibility was knight to f3, queen a5, bishop to d2, knight to a6, a3, bishop to d7, and Black is doing okay. White is Black is getting some possible counterplay on the queen side, and there's no immediate mate on White's king side. So anyway, unfortunately Donner didn't see this. It's kind of surprising because he was actually well known as a defensive player. but he played knight to e8 instead. So now Liu Wenzhe plays a good move, queen to d3, and his plan is crystal clear, queen to h3 or queen to g3, h4, and then h7. So e takes d5, knight to d5. This knight plays a crucial role in the coming attack. Knight to c6, queen to g3. It's very difficult to. I'm sure Donner was looking exactly what Liu Wenzhe was trying to do here, but how do you stop it? Bishop to e6, queen to h4, f5, and now, of course, queen to h7, king to f7. Now, as I said, many of you are familiar with this game, so you probably know what happens next, but if you don't, why don't you try to work out how white completes his attack. I'll give you a second. I don't have to wait, so I will go on now. White played the surprising and shocking queen to g6. Double exclamation point. Of course, there's no choice here. The queen must be taken. And now, these moves are relatively easy to see. Bishop to h5, king to h7, and Liu Wenzhe said that Donner played quickly here, and with no sense of alarm, he thought that the queen sack was unsound, apparently. Anyway, so he played king to h7, bishop to f7, discovered check, bishop to h6. Okay, and now, this is where Donner had miscalculated and Liu Wenzhe had not. How would you continue as white here? Okay, if you played rook takes h6, then that wouldn't have worked out too well, because black survives by going to g7. So that's not the route. The correct move, as I just accidentally shown, was g6 check. This is what Donner failed to spot. King to g7, bishop to h6 check, and Donner resigned in this position. But the follow-up would have been king to h8, and now there are two ways to mate. He could play bishop to f8, check, queen to h4 is the only move, rook to h4, or he could have played bishop to g7 for a little extra sacrifice at the end, unnecessary. This is a double check, of course, so this is forced, and then rook to h7 is checkmate. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this game, and you might want to try this line against the next perk that you see. Okay. Thanks very much.